Are you saying that the U.S. is also reaching its end of its life cycle? If the dollar is reaching the end of its life cycle, does that mean the host country is as well?
It's a long death, you know what I mean? But it's declining right now. That's why the BRICS,
Yeah.
everybody's watching the BRICS. That's why 74 was also the petrodollar.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's all on resources. So the VRIC, the reason I'm here, this is resources. This is the Vancouver, British Columbia is Silicon Valley for resources. And resources, as you know, because you've been at it for most of your life, I'm sure, resources will always be here. But tech stock will not be here. And the thing, the S&P 500 is hanging on the Magnificent Seven, you know, Google, Apple, and all that. And if I was a boomer right now, and I'm going to start to liquidate.
This show provides you with timely information to help manage your assets. One of your most important assets is your online data, and it is under threat. In 2022, over 13.5 million Americans fell victim to identity theft. 2022 also had the second highest number of data breaches, with at least 422 million individuals affected. Each time you sign up to a new online service, you provide personal data that hackers can steal, and having that data online limits your privacy. You can ask companies which store your data to delete it, but submitting removal requests manually can take weeks, if not months. Thankfully, there is an easier way, Incogni. Incogni automatically submits data removal requests, scrubbing your data from data brokers' lists. And it's simple to use. Just create an account, grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf, and then just relax and allow Incogni to take care of everything. So take your personal data back with Incogni. Use the code down below, David Lin, at the link and get 60% off on an annual plan. The data is yours to protect, so don't wait to protect your data online. Click on the link down below. At the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, joining us is legendary author Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and we'll be talking about a lot of different things. Great privilege to be speaking with you. Thank you for being here, Robert.
Oh, thank you. I love this place. I love the VRIC.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things, deals happening. Let's talk about what you think is going on in the world. But before then, how are you doing? What's new in your life?
It's a lot. It's fantastic, but I've been preparing for this time.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier. I was on, I think, by 1970. I'm a history buff. 1974, the U.S. government passed a law called ERISA, and that was the shift in. It caused the 401k, the IRA, and RRSP. So 74 are boomers. Today, there's 75 million boomers who are hoping the stock market's going to keep them alive. And I was talking about it. I said, when the S&P comes down, and it's going to come down because the bond market's going to collapse also, you're going to have a lot of homeless boomers. And the boomers were the luckiest generation in history, except without financial education, they put their retirement years on the stock market. I think it's so high a risk, I can't stand it.
I'm going to read you a tweet that you made. Inflation or deflation? One of the PhDs at the White House, Treasury, and Fed put economy into hyperinflation. I hope not, but what if our leaders effed up, the dollar collapses, and we have hyperinflation? That's why I bought 5 more Bitcoin today. This was January 10th, earlier in the month. What are you going to do? Trust yourself, not our leaders. Tell us about why. What did you mean by that? Are we going to get hyperinflation? That's not what you're saying, but you're saying preparing for that, you're going to buy Bitcoin. Why Bitcoin?
Well, because I call it people's money. Gold and silver are God's money.
Right.
Placed here by God.
Yeah.
But historically, you have to look at things from a historical point of view. Every currency has a life cycle.
Right.
Okay, like we have human beings, we have life cycles.
Sure.
So a currency has a life cycle. So when the Confederate dollar ran its life cycle, it went out. When the what do you call that? The Continental, which was the money for the revolution, when it died, it went out. When the Weimar Republic, the Reichsmark died, it went out, and hyperinflation follows that. So I predict that the US dollar as a currency is at the end of its life cycle. It's a dying currency. So that's why BRICS and our Bitcoin and all that are coming up right now, because the U.S. dollar is dying.
What does this mean for the regular person when the U.S. dollar is dying? Are we going to lose our purchasing power? Our living standards are going to decrease? Let's say I don't have a lot of money to buy gold or Bitcoin as investments. What do I do, Robert?
Well, man, you were just interviewing Rick Rule.
Yeah.
And, he says he sleeps better because he has gold.
Okay.
And there's so many, when I wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad 20-something years ago,
Yeah.
I said savers are losers. Why would you trust something our criminal governments will print? I always talk about if you can print it, I don't want it.
Right.
So I don't have bonds.
Yeah.
I don't have cash. If we can print it, I don't want it. So I have investing in Wagyu cattle.
Okay.
Because you can't print a Wagyu cattle.
Yeah.
And I make my money, talk about cash flow. I buy the breeding bulls.
It's an interesting market. Not everybody can buy into that market. Something else that we can buy that generates cash flow.
I really don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
What about do you like real estate today?
Real estate's going to crash because the boomers are going to go down.
Right.
If you understand the boomers, anyway, they're about to go.
Yeah.
In '74, ERISA put them all into paper assets.
Right.
Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs.
Yeah.
I won't even touch a silver or gold ETF. I don't buy Bitcoin ETF. I want the real thing. But that's me, because I'm old enough to have seen the booms and busts. I never lived in Zimbabwe, but I was in Zimbabwe for about two months. And it's horrifying. It's when your currency is worth nothing. So I'll say it again, the US dollar has a life cycle. It's a currency life cycle. So when you study macroeconomics, study the life cycle of a currency.
Are you saying that the U.S. is also reaching its end of its life cycle? If the dollar is reaching the end of its life cycle, does that mean the host country is as well?
It's a long death, but it's declining right now. That's why the BRICS, everybody's watching the BRICS. That's why '74 was also the petrodollar.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's all on resources. So the VRIC, the reason I'm here, this is resources. This is the Vancouver, British Columbia is Silicon Valley for resources. And resources, as you know, because you've been at it for most of your life, I'm sure, resources will always be here. But tech stock will not be here. And the thing, the S&P 500 is hanging on the Magnificent Seven, Google, Apple, and all that. And if I was a boomer right now, and I'm going to start to liquidate, and if the S&P collapses, because our bond markets are collapsing.
Yeah.
If I was your age and have parents, your parents are going to move in with you. If they have a 401k, RRSP, IRA. And I wrote another book, Who Stole My Pension, with Ted Siddell. Our pensions are empty. Wall Street and our governments have looted us. America is a criminal operation run by the head of the criminal organization called Biden. What these guys are doing is criminal. It's criminal. The first thing that Biden did when he came to office, he cut the Keystone XL pipeline. I sell oil. I have hard assets. I'm an oil guy. I went to school for oil. And the moment Biden came to office, his first act was to cut that pipeline. Under Trump, I was selling oil at $30 a barrel. The day that Biden came to office and cut the pipeline, oil went from 30 to 130. Inflation went through the roof. And what that means is, mom and pop, Mrs. Soccer Mom standing there at the pump, she can't afford to put gas in her SUV, and she's got 3 kids to feed, and prices at the supermarkets going up because oil affects everything. Civilization runs on energy.
Yes.
So that's why uranium's going up and all this stuff and oil. But the uneducated or unsophisticated public is in serious trouble right now. So I feel for the people who may lose their homes. The homeless among boomers is going to go up just because they have nothing. American boomers were the luckiest generation in world history. But they have nothing because our schools teach us nothing about money.
Do you feel like the U.S. is ready to take on its next adversary? Let's say a global war breaks out. You served in the Marines in the 70s. evaluate the state of our military today?
Don't get me started.
I,
I don't know what's happened to men. Men are now TikTok dancers. I'm going, there's no men today. I mean, I talked to young women. I said, where are the men? I said, well, they're dancing. They're dancing in Times Square.
who will be America's biggest adversary in the next 10 to 15 years?
I think America is, because we're coming apart at the seams.
Okay.
We're fighting each other.
Right.
Like our colleges, last year about this time, I did a talk at Arizona State University, which is the largest university in America.
Yeah.
39 professors shut me down. In 1965, David, I went to school from Hawaii, I went to school in New York. My economics teacher had me had our class read the first book was the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. I read the Communist Manifesto, I went, oh my God, my family, all educators, are Marxists. They don't know it, David, because they haven't read the Communist Manifesto. The number one thing for Marxism are taxes. Make sure everybody gets taxed.
Yeah.
So it's that progressive income tax is essential for the spread of communism.
Yes.
Labor unions. My father, poor dad, head of the labor unions. You see, what I'm saying is America is going Marxist. You can see it in our education.
What's going to happen, let's suppose this transition that we're talking about, the social transition to socialism, what's going to happen to American society, our families, our values, once this transition evolves?
Well, unfortunately, it's war. I hate to say that. We're on the verge of it right now.
We're talking about civil war?
I flew in Vietnam twice.
Okay.
And I remember, in '66, I went to Vietnam for the first time.
Yeah.
I was a student and midshipman. And America didn't know what was happening in Vietnam in '66, So I go to this restaurant and I said, hey, what does a Viet Cong look like? They said, well, those guys are Viet Cong over there.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know any better. I got a beer, sat down, talked to these guys. They say, yeah, you're Viet Cong. Okay, good. They're pissed off that there's rich and poor. And they don't know how to get rich because without education, they're poor.
What are the biggest money mistakes that young people are making today?
They think a college degree is all you need. My whole family, they got I have a Bachelor of Science degree.
Yes.
I am low rent in my family.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You don't have a master's? You don't have a PhD? No. I said, no, I got a financial statement. What do you got?
Yeah, the Asian families value education, I understand.
I know,
yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
My mother's disappointed I'm not a doctor.
I know.
I'm podcasting here. But she gets off my back about it. I'm interviewing great people. Anyway, continue your story. Your family's educated. Okay, so education is not the answer to building wealth. Why?
Well, because they actually teach you the wrong things. Number one thing I don't like about school is they tell you don't make mistakes. Humans were designed to make mistakes. A baby doesn't take TikTok lessons. A baby has to stand, fall, stand, fall.
Yeah.
Next is bicycles, fall.
Yeah.
Humans are designed to learn to make mistakes. But after they got through their bicycle, they go to a classroom, they're told not to make mistakes. The second thing is don't cooperate. Cooperation is called cheating. I was very cooperative in school. I was sat next to the smartest girl going. But that's how I get rich here. I did my talk yesterday at VRIC.
Right.
I said, what you're looking for is the right company, the right partners. You're looking for the people with the right teams.
Right.
So capitalists are teams. It's only the small entrepreneur who are, that they pick stocks and all that jazz.
Well, you know what we were taught? Once you make your money, put 20% of it aside as a savings account. The rest of it you can spend however you want. How do you feel about that strategy?
I don't save dollars. As I said, anything
Yeah.
you can print. I don't have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or ETFs. I sell them. I take companies public.
Yeah.
In my first company, I was one of these young guys standing here at these booths.
Yeah.
took my first company public, raised 27 million on the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Right.
And it was a gold mine in China.
Okay.
We struck the biggest lode in China. The Chinese took it. They nationalized it. So I found out the hard way what country risk means.
Yeah.
So my next gold mine I took public was last summer on the New York Stock Exchange.
Right.
This one's in Utah.
Yeah.
It's ODV, one of the biggest gold mines in America. The interesting thing is, it was always sitting there. It's a 150-year-old mine, and this guy Marin Katusa, who's he's a god here in Vancouver. Marin took all the logbooks of these old miners from 150 years ago, the Bull Rose and this. He applied AI to it, and he found out the old miners 150 years ago missed the vein, and he re-entered. We took it public. So as I said yesterday to the whole crowd here, there's billions of dollars sitting here in these small startups. Got to find them. They're here.
They're here. Give us one or two things you look for when you're picking, let's say, an opportunity to invest in.
Well, you always look. It's always the team. Who's on the team.
Put it this way: a lot of people didn't know this about you. Okay, but you were back in the day. You were at one of these booths pitching your company, right?
Yeah.
What was your pitch? Tell someone comes to you, hey, Robert, should we buy your stock? Should we buy your company?
I told them about a gold mine in China.
Yeah.
They all thought I had holes in my head. But you and I were talking when I came over here.
Right.
I was here in Vancouver when Hong Kong was shaking.
Yeah.
And because all the Chinese money from Hong Kong ran into here. Now it's the Chinese money coming in from that mainland China's coming in. Vancouver is a very, very rich city. But you've got to pay attention to the macro and the ebbs and the flows. So when I was standing here the first time pitching a Chinese deal, everybody was going, are you crazy? They were right. I took it public. Chinese nationalized it.
Yeah.
So I learned. So now my next mine is in Utah.
Okay.
I don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. Do you think we're getting a recession soon?
Good.
We are.
We're here right now.
We're already here. Yeah, please.
That's why I was saying, look at history. 1974, ERISA, 401k, RRSP, IRAs. The boomers are going to go bust. They're going to lose their houses and all this if that S&P crashes. The key right now is unemployment, and unemployment is now starting to spike up. So that's why I'm pretty pessimistic right now, going, okay, look, prepare. This is worse than 2008.
So Bitcoin and gold, prepare.
And silver.
And silver. Why silver? Isn't silver an industrial metal? Isn't it going to go down with the recession?
Well, silver is one of the best investments today because it's 60% below its all-time high.
Yeah.
Silver used to be $50, and today it's $25.
Yeah.
But silver is used in every Tomahawk missile that's fired.
Right.
There's a pound of silver in it.
Right. You're 70 years old. You're 70 years old now. If you were 20 years old again today, give yourself younger career advice. Let's say I want to be rich, right? You want to be rich. You're a 20-year-old kid, just graduated college or high school, whatever. What should you learn today?
That's a very good question because I'm having a rich dad or a poor dad.
Yeah.
I flew for the Marine Corps. That's my wings.
Of course, yes.
I love flying. But I didn't want to fly as a pilot. I hated it after a while. So I went to see my poor dad, and he says, get a job with United Airlines or American or Pan Am.
Yeah.
So, Dad, I'm through flying. He says, well, go back to get your PhD. I said, and be like you? PhD stands for poor, helpless, desperate. Funny. So I go to see my rich dad, and I said, what would you advise a 25-year-old kid? He says, number one, you have to be able to sell. If you can't sell, you can't be an entrepreneur. Okay. So, all these guys are pushing this.
Yeah.
And the second thing, you must learn to use debt. So I got a job with the Xerox Corporation to learn how to sell. Really professional sales training. They fly you to Virginia to learn how to sell and all this. And the second thing was to learn real estate, to learn to use debt. So I have millions. So when somebody says, I can't afford it. Well, with real estate, all you got to do is put the debt into underlying the project. So I did a I'm $1.5 billion in debt.
Right, yeah.
It drove people nuts. I said, yeah, but the US dollar became debt in 1971, if you know your history.
Right.
When Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So I use debt as money. Most of these guys do too. It's the poor people that are saving, the Canadian dollar.
I read one of Donald Trump's books, and you and Mr. Trump are friends. I don't know if you share this anecdote with you, but he wrote in his book, at one point in the 80s, he was something like $1 billion or $2 billion in debt. He walked by a homeless person on the street, and he realized that homeless person is $2 billion richer than he is. Right? We think about debt as a bad thing. I mean, do you walk by a homeless person and think that person is $1 billion richer than me? Like, how does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, if he's homeless in Vancouver, he's soaking wet. In Hawaii, he's happy.
But when you tell someone you're $1 billion in debt, their first question is why?
Because they don't understand money. In
Okay.
71, the dollar became debt.
Right.
So is the Canadian dollar's debt.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a rich person, man or woman, you must understand debt and how to use it. Most people use credit cards to get credit card debt, or they go shopping at all the shops up here.
Right.
Well, there's good debt and bad debt.
Well, explain the difference, good debt and bad debt.
Well, good debt is something the bank will lend you money on.
Yeah.
So I go to my banker. Like, I'm putting a deal together right now.
Yeah.
I need $2 million. So I've got to go and package the deal so I can go raise the money to put into the deal. Banks don't make money on your savings. Banks make money on debt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So you
They don't want your savings.
you take this debt. What do? You invest.
I sell it to the bank.
Right. Okay.
I said, hey, bankers, look, here's my collateral, and it could be an apartment house.
Right.
Let's say a 500-unit apartment house in Texas.
Right.
Their teeth go soft. Apartment house in Texas, in oil country.
Right.
They go, how much money do you want? But if I go up there, I'm going to buy, a Gucci bag.
Yeah.
Here's a credit card.
So do you have a guideline or a rule? Your debt to equity or debt to asset ratio? Is there something that we should have how much debt is too much debt? Is my question.
Well, if you got $1 more than your payment, you're good. No, the reason I'm laughing. I met this couple here yesterday. They said, okay, we did what you told to do. We bought a rental property. I said, good. How do we pay for it? I said, you should have asked that question before you bought it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. But the debt, you have to generate some cash flow.
That's
Otherwise,
what I mean.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't pay for it. Like, I have my cash flow board game and all that. I teach all
Right.
that.
For sure.
So there's a yellow Ferrari on it. My wife and I have an agreement. I can have anything I want. She doesn't borrow.
Okay.
So I borrow. So I go on. The Ferrari was like $400,000.
Yeah.
She says, you can have it, but you have to buy an asset first. So I bought a mini storage in Texas. And with debt, the mini storage pays for the debt on my Ferrari. It's called cash flow.
Right. Okay. And you said that real estate is not an asset sometimes? You said that housing is not an asset sometimes, real estate?
Cash flow it's always cash flow.
Right.
If cash is coming in, it's an asset.
Okay.
Cash is flowing out, it's a liability.
The other thing you told us, we'll clap it up here, how do we sell? You said, look, you got to learn how to sell. How do we learn how to sell?
Well, I take lessons. I go to sales trainings.
Okay.
I go to marketing conferences. I'm always studying. But just as a plug, because I'm starting a network marketing company.
Okay.
For many reasons. One of them is to teach financial education using my board game.
Right.
So people get educated on money. But also, you have to learn how to sell to be in network marketing. So my friend Blair Singer is going to teach people how to sell. Because sales is the number one asset of an entrepreneur. Sales equals income. When I find somebody who's broke, it's because they can't sell enough to cover their expenses. So sales equals income, and so that's why Rich Dad said two things. I must learn how to sell, and two, how to use debt. That's the key to entrepreneurship. That's why I was up here.
Great to see you, Robert. Thanks for being here.
Congratulations, all your success.
I
I've
really
watched you
appreciate
grow
that.
up.
Thank you very much for being here. Follow Robert Kiyosaki, and thank you for watching.